Industrial base and bring back those beautiful words, made in the USA. And we were doing that 4 years ago and starting to do really well. And then we had to stop for an unknown reason. All of a sudden she comes out and she says the same thing, exactly the same words that I used.
Okay, former President Trump in York, Pennsylvania.
Well, when I hear Donald Trump talk about rebuilding our industrial base and bringing back the proud words made in the USA, I feel a sense of disappointment. Trump seems to be trying to restore the image of his first term as president when his plans were supposed to be on the upswing. But what happened? And now he is criticizing his opponents for allegedly copying his ideas, saying they are using the exact same words he used. I can't help but wonder, does Trump really believe that simply rehashing old ideas is the solution to our problems? Is this his strategy for solving the real problems we face today?
Last 8 to 10 years have been about Donald Trump. Everything's been about Donald Trump.
Everyone was better off when you had a gentleman named President Donald J. Trump at the helm. Does anybody know him? Whoever he may be.
You think about the reality. She is saying to the American voter, I'm with you. I think a lot of these big corporations have huge profits, and I'm going to stand with you against price gouging. I'm going to stand with you in terms of child care tax credits. That's a message more than an economic policy. So you can attack the proposal and its minutia, but I think the message to the vote.
All right. The fact that even Fox News has expressed skepticism about Trump's performance. When a media outlet that views him begins to question his effectiveness, it signals a significant shift in the political landscape. Fox News is grappling with the reality that Trump, once a dominant force in American politics, is now struggling to maintain his grip on the narrative. The commentary underscores a growing disillusionment with Trump's leadership and inspires confidence. Despite years of focus on Trump, his policies, his controversies, his personality, there is a palpable sense that his time in the spotlight is running out. Analysis of Trump's performance as a challenger reveals a serious flaw. His reliance on past accomplishments and familiar rhetoric is no longer as supportive as it once was. The idea that Trump's name alone is enough to secure support is increasingly seen as unrealistic. His campaign seems stuck in a loop, clinging to outdated strategies and failing to adapt to the changing political landscape.
I think this party is not going to heal until this is the most misogynist ticket we've ever had. It's not just Donald Trump. You have J.D. Vance with the attacks on childless cat ladies and postmenopausal grandmas, just offending everybody, now.
When you think about it, it's easy to see that it was not a week that Donald Trump or the Republican Party would like to remember fondly. The struggle to fill seats at his events, and the seats that were filled so quickly, spoke volumes about the state of his campaign. It was almost as if the enthusiasm that once surrounded him had evaporated, leaving behind a dwindling audience that could no longer tolerate his rambling, meandering speeches. Commentary on the Republican ballot highlighted a deeper problem, a troubling lack of engagement and growing divisiveness. Criticism of Trump and running mate J.D. Vance for their misogynistic rhetoric was particularly shocking. The comments about baby cats and crazy old ladies as mail carriers were not just insulting, they pointed to a broader failure to connect with diverse voters. This type of rhetoric only alienates potential supporters and reinforces negative stereotypes.
We're positive, but I think we all know Donald Trump sees the world a little differently. You think he would understand the importance of Carhenge as a historical relic? The British made a replica of it out of stone. It's so important, so just so we know. Or do you think he would know the joy of tubing and swimming the Niobrara as we do in the summer? Well, it sure ain't for Donald Trump, I'll tell you that. This guy is the opposite of everything here. Every opportunity he has, he weakens our country.
Meanwhile, did you see that? Tim Walz, speaking to an overflowing crowd and apologizing for the overflow problem, was really upbeat. His energy and connection with the audience was a stark contrast to Donald Trump's struggling campaign. Walz's ability to draw such a large crowd speaks to his charisma and the enthusiasm behind his candidacy. In his speech, Walz clearly contrasted his vision with Trump's. He mentioned Trump's inability to appreciate things like historical sites or the simple joys of summer activities, thereby drawing a clear line between himself and Trump. It was almost as if he was suggesting that Trump was out of touch with the values and everyday experiences that matter to ordinary Americans. Wow, the contrast is striking. Trump, who often appears aloof and detached, is portrayed as someone who doesn't understand or care about the cultural and historical nuances that many voters identify with. Walz's argument that Trump is weakening the country to strengthen his position encompasses a broader critique that Trump's actions are self-serving rather than beneficial to the nation as a whole.
Battleground states who are energized, moving towards the Democratic column. Now, I am a student of history, Fred. I love to look at history. I like to put things in historical perspective. So let's do that here in these Great Lake battleground states. I want you to look again. It's Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. 2024, we're looking at those New York Times Siena College polls. And then just look back at the exit polls from 2020 and 2016. Look at the women margin. Look at this. Look at the margin that the Democrats are getting among women voters. Back in 2016, when Hillary Clinton was the Democratic nominee, it was 11 points. You jump forward to 2020, look at that, a 13-point margin. Look at how well Kamala Harris, though, is doing among women voters. My goodness gracious, a 17-point margin, considerably better than Hillary Clinton did 8 years ago, and even better than Joe Biden.
It was impressive to see a panel of Fox News pundits, usually so sympathetic to Trump, finally bring some much-needed common sense to their analysis. The fact that they were discussing why Trump is struggling in the polls, despite having more campaign time than Vice President Harris, highlights a major issue for his campaign. When senior political analyst Brett Hume pointed out the shifting dynamics in battleground states and the Democrats' growing margin, especially among women voters, it was a stark wake-up call. The stats were striking. A 17-point margin for Kamala Harris among women, far surpassing the previous performance of Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. This is not just a small shift, it's a significant, undeniable trend.
We'll be talking with Senator Vance there, where they are in the polls. He says they've got the message, they're going to win. Here's another Fox News poll we have out this week. How do you feel about how things are going in the country? 65% say they're dissatisfied. So, Britt, knowing that and knowing in this setup, Trump is the challenger, why is he not doing better?
Because he's Trump. I mean, the truth of the matter is...
And the show is over. Britt has dropped the mic.
I mean, when you get down to it, the past 8 to 10 years have been about Donald Trump. Everything's been about Donald Trump. I don't think that the Democrats would have let Joe Biden get as far as he did if the party hadn't been confident that the Republicans were going to nominate Donald Trump again, which the Republicans did. The fact that Biden was doing even as well as he did until the very end is testament to the fact that Donald Trump, he has a very hard, solid base of support, but it never gets above about 40 to 45%, maybe a little more at best.
You think about the reality. She is saying to the American voter, I'm with you. I think a lot of these big corporations have huge profits, and I'm going to stand with you against price gouging. I'm going to stand with you in terms of child care tax credits. That's a message more than an economic policy. So you can attack the proposal and its minutia, but I think the message to the voters...
The fact that 65% of the country is dissatisfied with the state of the country while Trump's campaign is struggling is both puzzling and disappointing. Despite years of media exposure and attention, Trump is still struggling to break out of his base approval rating of 40 to 45%. This persistent ceiling is a clear indicator of the limits of his appeal. The commentator's view of Democratic strategy and Trump's lasting influence over the past decade reveals a harsh reality. It is clear that Democrats' confidence in Trump as the Republican nominee has shaped their approach. Joe Biden's ability to remain competitive, even with so much discontent surrounding him, speaks volumes about Trump's shortcomings.
I do need to give the vice president credit and the administration credit for the negotiation on pharma and drug prices. They have had success on big specific medications and bringing those prices down in negotiations that you heard from President Biden just yesterday. She tapped into that as well.
All of a sudden she comes out and she says the same thing, exactly the same words that I used.
Okay, former President Trump in York, Pennsylvania, keeping an eye on that speech.
A Fox News host praising the Biden-Harris administration for its success in negotiating lower drug prices contrasts dramatically with Trump's approach. The administration's success in this area, I think, is a clear, tangible benefit to many Americans, demonstrating a commitment to addressing pressing healthcare issues. What's particularly notable is that the commentary notes that Vice President Harris has echoed Trump's sentiments. Yet, rather than being laudable, it feels like a missed opportunity for Trump. While Harris's association with effective policies is being recognized, Trump's speech in York, Pennsylvania, feels dated and irrelevant by comparison.
Record to notice him.
Swift comes out against Trump.
I don't care if they write that. I'm sad that I didn't 2 years ago, but I can't change that. I'm saying right now that this is something that I know is right, and you guys, I need to be on the right side of history, and if he doesn't win, then at least
Donald Trump's response to mounting challenges has always been a spectacle, but his recent actions have been particularly revealing. Sharing an AI-generated image of Swifties for Trump seems like a desperate and misguided attempt to shore up his image with a fan base that, frankly, has shown very little support for him. It's almost as if he's clinging to any form of validation, no matter how tenuous or insincere. Taylor Swift's statement only adds to the irony. Here's someone who has publicly opposed Trump and is now reasserting her position with a sense of moral clarity. Her message of being on the right side of history and opposing Trump's policies speaks volumes about the current political climate. Swift's determination to be on the right side of history, even if it means opposing Trump, highlights the growing divide between his increasingly isolated stance and the public's sentiment at large. It's hard to miss the stark contrast between the momentum of this campaign and Trump's struggles. His campaign is clearly floundering, caught off guard by the immense energy and enthusiasm surrounding his opponents. Vivid descriptions of huge crowds and vibrant events for his opponents paint a picture of a campaign that has captured the spirit of the times, merging politics with pop culture in a way that seems unprecedented. I can't help but feel disbelieving about how out of place Trump's campaign seems. While his opponents are drawing huge crowds and generating buzz beyond traditional politics, Trump's efforts seem to be met with waning interest and growing frustration. His inability to keep up with these vibrant, energetic events only serves to highlight the chaos of his campaign.
Fight for it. And that's what this campaign is about. This campaign is about a recognition that, frankly, over the last several years, there's been this kind of perversion that has taken place, I think, which is to suggest that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, when what we know is the real and true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up. That's what we see as strength. We know what strength looks like. That's what strength looks like. Anybody who's about beating down other people is a coward. This is what strength looks like.
As Kamala Harris delivered her impassioned speech, it was striking how her message contrasted with the current state of the Republican Party. Harris's words were a powerful reminder of the essence of true leadership: lifting others up, not tearing them down. Her insistence that power is measured by how many people you can empower, rather than how many you can bring down, resonated deeply. For me, Harris's vision of leadership felt like a breath of fresh air, especially when compared to the divisive and often destructive rhetoric we've seen from Trump. It was clear that she was tapping into a fundamental truth about leadership, one that values inclusion and empathy over aggression and exclusion. But then there's the disheartening reality of Trump's campaign, which seems to be struggling more and more as time goes on. When Fox News, a network that has traditionally been sympathetic to Trump, began to turn against him, it was a clear sign of how far his campaign had fallen. It wasn't just a single misstep. It was a profound disconnect with the broader sentiment of the electorate. In light of all these developments, it's clear that the political landscape is shifting dramatically. Kamala Harris's message of true leadership stands in stark contrast to the faltering Trump campaign. As we witness this pivotal moment, it's more important than ever to stay informed and engaged with the evolving dynamics of our political environment. If you're as passionate about understanding the nuances of this election and the broader implications for our country, make sure to support our channel. By subscribing and sharing our content, you'll help us continue to provide in-depth analysis and coverage of these crucial political events. Join us in exploring the complexities of today's political landscape and ensuring that you're always at the forefront of the conversation. Your support makes a difference, and together, we can navigate these transformative times with insight and clarity.